Everybody, thank you very much for coming back tonight. And Christopher, thank you very much for giving us that wonderful, spectacular, just riffing session. Anybody who doesn't know, Christopher plays the bass very well. Oh, we lost you. You back now?
Oh, no, I got you.
There we go. There we go. So, yes, for anyone who doesn't know Maute, we have... Chris, just introduce yourself, and then I'll blow smoke up your ass for an hour. Go on ahead. Oh, we've lost him.
Oh, please, yeah. Allow me to blow my own smoke up my own ass. Good. Thank you. Thanks for giving me this platform to do so. All right. So, I mean, the most basic explanation is my name is Chris, and I'm a bass player. Above and beyond that, I've been on YouTube for a little while.
A few years.
I'm what some may consider a old guard Google Plus guy. And I had a show called Meeting of the Minds, and it was a platform for people to discuss things that they disagree about without being disagreeable, which is a theme that I've maintained. So right now I kind of have a dinner table theme with the shows that I currently do, and it's based off of this meeting of the minds mentality of, you know, having compassion and empathy for the people that you talk to, giving them an opportunity to get out what they want to say without interrupting and trying to slam them and have bad faith interpretations. Instead, have good faith interpretations and see what you can learn from the other person.
I was the whole kitchen table idea. I was explaining that to the girlfriend today. She was like, "Your thumbnail, love, life, and pasta. Is the guy really into pasta?" And I'm like, "Well, it's the kitchen, you know. It's like I think I'm nearly sure you've made pasta on stream while having these conversations." Like,
I believe that I have. So,
and with
yeah,
Fabio,
so
that's taking a chance too. You make it shouted at, you know.
Oh, I haven't made pasta with Fabio, but considering that Fabio is frequently in the panel, yeah, it's always a risky move cooking anything with Fabio in the panel.
Wildheart is in the chat. Wildheart let me into a wee nugget of knowledge earlier today. The first time he seen you was in GC Studios.
The New Covenant Group, yes. All right, so hold on a second. Let me see, because you're doing this on a different platform.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you'll need to bring up the chat.
Yeah, I just want to be able to see what people are saying. Here we go. Perfect. All right, and then I'll turn that down. Rock on. All right, so, yeah, the Meeting of the Minds was originally done through a channel called the New Covenant Group. And the New Covenant Group was led by Michael Jones. And the New Covenant Group was a group of Christians in that they believed in the teachings of Christ, but they were kind of anti-religious. So they had a lot in common with the complaints that atheists have, and they were open to having atheists on the show, as well as religious fundamentalists, both of which they disagreed with. Now, what catapulted New Covenant Group into popularity was, so I'm gonna go into story time mode for a hot second. You don't mind, do you?
The channel's yours. Go for it. Go for it.
All right, so let's rock this for a hot second, and correct me if I'm wrong, people in the chat. So for a while, what was happening was online is where religions came to die, because the main apologetic that was being used was an evidentialist apologetic. The one forwarded by Dwayne Gish, the one forwarded by Kent Hovind, the one forwarded by Ken Ham. All that evidentialist was like many hairs to split for scientists and science communicators to be like, oh, you think that? That's where you're wrong. And just they would fall apart, right? These evidentialist apologetics. Now, something very drastic happened when somebody by the name of Cy Ten Bruggencate came on the scene. He repopularized an apologetic called the presuppositional apologetic. And he's not the originator of it. And if I get the names right, it's Bonson and Van Tilman, or just Tillman, or something like that. Well, anyway, there were predecessors to the presuppositionalist apologetic. Cy Ten Bruggencate was popular because he was brash in the way that he approached presuppositional apologetics, and he said publicly that he's not interested in changing minds, he's interested in shutting mouths. So the New Covenant Group had him and Eric Hovind, Kent Hovind's son, on as a guest. Now, Eric Hovind got swayed into presuppositional apologetics and away from evidentialist because his dad was in jail at the time, and he was Eric was maintaining the CSE, creation science evangelists industry. I don't know how else to put it. So he kind of got hypnotized by Cy Ten Bruggencate, and the two of them were guests on one of the shows that the New Covenant Group hosts, and they had kind of like a studio area where they would host shows and nice cameras and stuff like that.
I've never seen any of it yet, so it sounds like high production, proper actual show. Like
Michael Jones is very interested in videography and cinematography and photography. So he always wanted like the best looking versions of what was going on. So he had, and for those of you that are familiar with this saga, Van Til, thank you, Wildheart666. For those of you that remember, this was the show that Cy Ten Bruggencate walked off the stage from. This was super popular because another YouTuber clipped it, and that clip just went super popular, right? So they were popular for that. They caught my eye for that. And I realized that they did like Wednesday open hangs, and so I started going to those. And then Michael Jones said something like, oh, well, if anybody has an idea for a show that they want to do, and I was like, oh, I'm one of those guys. So I pitched Meeting of the Minds, and this was a Thursday, and he's like, yeah, sounds good. So Sunday, because on Sunday they broadcast from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it was just 1 hour or 2 hour increments of shows. So it was like a channel. It was fun. Like Sunday, you just tuned in and, there's a bunch of cool shows. And in the evening, it got like really fun and spicy because that's when the panel discussion started. And, that's when the more controversial guests would be on. And one of those shows was Meeting of the Minds. And so, yeah, on a Thursday, he's like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. Get somebody for Sunday. Well, like, I didn't know anybody at the time. I was on like Facebook. I was on this a page called Creationism and Evolution. Mm-hmm. And so I just posted, I was like, hey man, if there's anybody in here that believes in creationism and wants to have a discussion video broadcast live, let me know. And somebody did. And I did my first show and did it for maybe a year or so on New Covenant Group, and then did it maybe for a half a year off the New Covenant Group, and then kind of dropped off the scene and just did like casual hangs. Mm-hmm. And now I just kind of use the internet as a mindful tool of the things that are good for me. I'm one of those wackaloons that's attempting to use the internet for good. So here's my thoughts, and I'll make this very quick. Talking to people, community, is good for humans in general, myself being one. The things that I like to do, my hobbies, the things that bring quality of life to me, and the things that make me happy, hopefully make the people around me happy too, so this is kind of like a transcendent effect, are cooking, music, psychology, philosophy, the good life kinds of discussions, and, these belief discussions about religion and stuff like that there. So I figure if I pre-make a playground for each of those kinds of discussions, it's always a perpetual reminder that, like, hey, Chris, why don't you do a show on blah, blah, blah? Hey, Chris, why don't you broadcast
have them
one of your food
platforms.
hangs? Yeah. So it's like, it's a motivator to do the good stuff. Well, the stuff that the internet is good for, which is connection.
If anybody hasn't seen Christopher's, hold on, I already preloaded a command, Maute. It's pronounced Maute, yes?
Yes.
Yes, because we had fucking Jupiter in the chat, he was asking, and it's pronounced Maute, yes. She was like, is it mouth but spelt wrong? It's like, no.
It is Maute.
If anyone
says that there's some clicks happening on my end. Is that the case?
Is there any clicking coming through to the stream? I don't know.
That's what Simus is saying. Yeah, I'll turn myself down a little bit. Maybe I'm popping the gain.
Oh, do you know what it is? I turned the desktop audio up for your mic or for your bass session. I'll turn it down ever so slightly on my end. You leave yours good. I'll fuck it about with it in this end. Because I want to be able to hear you. No, you're completely muted now. Yeah, leave it as it is. If there's any problems, I'll play with it. Because if it gets too quiet, I can't hear you. But I would have known of a few of the people that you would have on your panel from being around and stuff like that there. And I'll be honest, Christopher, it was Titan that actually brought you to my attention. It was like, you need to get this guy on, very, very interesting, plays the bass and stuff like that. And I think we reached out and we made a connection. It was like, hi, how are you, blah, blah, blah. Then life stepped in and there was like 4 months, maybe longer, where we didn't actually talk. I didn't even go to your channel or nothing like that. Because to be honest, the titles threw me off. I expected a cooking show, It was like, oh, he's fucking cooking. He's fucking, right, okay.
That's right. That first hang that you were in all of a sudden turned into the MathPig in the hot seat episode.
I have to. This is what I'm getting.
It was one of the few ones that I sat at my desk and just started talking. Instead of being in the kitchen. Well,
as I say, yeah, it's usually in the kitchen and stuff like that, and seeing them titles and not knowing a goddamn thing about you. And I would like to say that I would be educated in the history of the community, And you're just a name that never come up.
Yes.
I know the relevance of you now. I know, and people will be like, you're a dick. How did you not know? But it was just, I'd never seen you. And then when you reached out to me and asked me to come on to the panel, I was like, right, this is cool. MOMMA, have a chat with Chris. And then there's other people that I was, would have known of that are coming on. And I've named the hangout on my channel, a re-upload of it called A Panel I Never Thought I Would Be Part of. I feel very lucky that I did catch your eye. I feel very lucky now that I've been landed with Simos and Fabio. You know, the two brilliant minds that I couldn't get enough of. Like, you know, it's
such good people. Such good people.
That catching you and finding out the history and where you are. You're definitely someone who I would say is under the radar because of what we try to do. Having them actual conversations and not creating drama and actually creating a safe place with genuine interlocutors doesn't create massive audiences, unfortunately.
I used to complain about that. But I think that here's how I've described it, right? Because I used to make like more videos about this stuff. I used to be more of a content creator, so to speak. But then my real life just got so good that priorities. So I call it the octagon, right? The internet is the octagon. And that's why I'm offering the dinner table. Because you can fight at both. Right? You can fight in the octagon, but the fighting is different. Fighting in the octagon is like to the death until someone taps out. Fighting at the dinner table, everybody still has their manners. Everyone still eats.
You have to
everyone
have your
still gets
elbows
nourished.
on the table, you know.
Table rules, dinner rules, right? And so that's where I kind of got the metaphor from. And also that's one of the reasons why when I do my good and all hangs, right? So just to kind of disentangle like the kinds of shows that I do. I have one called ATHEIST, where I talk about like belief and atheism and deism and theism and philosophy and psychology and stuff according to that. And then I have a hangout called Flavor Tooth, which is about music and emotions, because I have a fun time talking to musicians, challenging them about music actually eliciting emotions, because I have a fun
100%.
thought experiment that I stole from Steven Pinker, right? The auditory cheesecake. Music is the auditory cheesecake.
Definitely, 100% agree with you. Music and emotions is very, very tied together. I'd be one of them old school people. Can't make a mixtape now, but you know, something important or someone important to me, you know, I'll spend weeks on a fucking playlist trying to find not even just the right music, but then you have to find the right video to go with it, you know, and
yes.
it's very, very, music is, sorry, go on ahead.
Yeah, and so the point that I try to make is that like music is tied to emotion, but I don't think it in the way that people think. And so I usually start those flavor tooths like challenging them, like, well, how can music cause emotions, right? Emotions are these things, and I give them like real technical psychology based, you know, definitions of emotions, and they're just like, oh, well, I don't know. And I'm just like, okay, here's how it works: tension and release. Like they might, you know, music might not be able to specifically trigger or evoke a specific garden variety emotion. It does better. It creates tension that it then releases in a way that's ethereal and magical and mystical and primal at the same time, right? So, but that's a whole other discussion. So I'm just describing the shows on my channel. So there's ATHEIST, there's Flavor Tooth, and then Good and All. So when you've been in the octagon for too long, usually humans come down with a case of the fuck-it-alls.
Yeah.
At the dinner table, we have a prescription strength cure for that. And it's called Good and All. You just come and hang out. We don't talk about the stupid shit online. And it's good and all. Now, in those hangs, my philosophy is whenever you, like, if you ever had a friend in the neighborhood who has hangouts and an open door policy, the conversations almost always end up in the kitchen. So my philosophy is I will just start in the kitchen. I will just start and end the whole hang in the kitchen, because that's where the best conversations happen when you're hanging with somebody anyway. I want it to be a casual open door style hang, and I want everyone to get along, not necessarily agree with each other, but get along in a way that we can have really robust discussions about topics, current events, things we're watching, things we're listening to, art, philosophy, all that happy horse shit.
Now, philosophy, you must have said the word about 6 times now. It's very important to you. It's, you know, well, I wouldn't say very, I'm not going to speak for you, but you have a background in it. It's something that's near to your heart.
Psychology more so. I love philosophy in as much as it informs critical thinking. but psychology is my wheelhouse. So I teach psychology. I lecture part-time at a university. I also, my main job for the past over 20 years is I manage a laboratory that studies the psychology of the sense of smell. So it's psychophysics. It's actually one of the few fields of psychology where we have equations that have been written that, so one of the complaints about psychology is, well, no scientific laws come out of psychology. And it's like, yeah, and then psychophysics, right? There's Weber's law, and then there's Fechner's law, and then there's Stevens' principles. And then it's like things that you can quantify and repeat over and over again to the point where they are laws. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's of course, I'm kind of humble. I'm not humble anything. I'm bragging about the field.
This is the whole fucking show, is to just blow smoke up your ass, man. Because in all honesty, I have an awful lot of respect for you, for what you're doing now. Out of the people, as I keep mentioning, it's them people, the old guard, the people who've been doing this for years. You're one of the few that's still actually, I wouldn't say producing content, but sticking to the core of it. Sticking to what the whole idea of breaking down barriers and talking to people, and the whole idea of what it came from.
I'm genuinely interested in it. Like if my behavior, if the consistency of my hangs is any indication of how genuinely I'm interested in this effort to have these kinds of discussions. I'm not an activist. I'm not an atheist activist. That's why I call my show Atheish. Mm-hmm. Like, on a good day, I'm apathetic to the whole question, So like if you ask me to choose, like, yeah, I'm atheish, kind of, you know what I mean? So I'm not an activist in that manner. The only thing I could say I'm an activist for is really good discussions.
It's the open panels. I always like the conversations, having a chance for a one-on-one. This is something that I've been very much looking forward to for a long time, But then I also wanted to make sure that there was an after party afterwards, because you do thrive in an open panel. You thrive in keeping the conversations going. It's probably the psychology background, but you're watching people, I would see it sometimes too. You're like, right, well, that guy's asking this question because in about 3 questions, he's going to ask this thing so he can say, gotcha. I'm just going to snip that and cut that down now and just get to the point and move past, keep the conversation going. And I see you do that very well, keeping it on topic. You're a fantastic moderator. And the conversations, you always give it a poke. It's like, right, well, I've listened to you two for 20 minutes and now I'm going to say what I think you are trying to communicate. Tell me if I'm wrong. And even if you are wrong, it sends a tangent.
There comes a point where, like, the dialogue becomes a monologue, and there are very specific techniques that you can use that are gentle enough that kind of break that. One is like, okay, you're saying a real lot. Let me make sure I have my head wrapped around what you're saying. I'm going to paraphrase that, and then that gives you an opportunity to kind of include other people, right? But yeah, to your point, it's a group dynamics thing. Sometimes I'm better at it than others, but I consider it, like music, I consider it a craft that I want to hone. I just want to get better and better at it. And I also think it has to do with being a musician, being a team member, seeing the dynamics, seeing how you have to change what you're doing in the face of what other people are doing towards a goal.
What came first, music or psychology?
Music. So I have a very quick story about that. When I was in music school, so I went to school, all right, so very quickly. When I was 18, I moved to Hollywood, California to become a fucking rock star. And this is 1989. My hair is down to here.
I was just about to say, how big was the perm? Was it a big perm?
It was huge. It was tremendous. I had strong hair. And in Hollywood, in the local rag where you would find bands to audition for, they would literally say, talent not necessary, strong hair a must. Regardless of what they were looking for. Drummer,
you
bassist.
always had to look the part. Just these
Oh,
days,
yeah.
you have to look different than what. But it was always about looking the part.
Oh yeah, hair metal. I was totally into hair metal.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it, right? So 1989, I moved to Hollywood, California when I'm 17. I turn 18 while I'm there. I go to a school called Musicians Institute, which now you can get is an accredited college. You can get a degree from this place, but it was BIT, Bass Institute of Technology, GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology, KIT for keyboards, VIT for venereal diseases, no vocals, and PIT for percussion. So sorry, I'm a 12-year-old always. So I went there to be a rock star, right? And I was in a band, and the leader of the singer of the band was like, "Yeah, I'm going to move back to La Jolla, California." So I left school and went to La Jolla, California. And then my parents realized that I'm living in like the woodshed of some hippies in La Jolla, California, and they're like, "You're coming home with us." So I came home with them and started going to college in Philadelphia at a place called University of the Arts, where I actually ended up teaching in the music education department. That's where I started teaching at the college level. But I started studying jazz, bass, and I took as an elective, because it was an accredited college. You know, I couldn't get a degree without taking like regular classes. I can't just take music classes. So as an elective, I took developmental psychology. And while I was taking it, it was like, you know, if I believed in a God, it was like the hand of the universe touched my forehead and said, "This is the method that is going to answer all the questions that you've always had that you never knew you had." It was like that weird watershed moment where it's like, I can study this alone, right? Because I'm already playing gigs. Like at this point I was like 5 semesters into music school. I'm playing gigs. I'm playing local gigs. I'm getting paid the same amount as my teachers.
Yeah.
The straw that broke the camel's back is one of my teachers asked me for a gig during one of the lean times of the year. That's when I was like, if this is what I'm going to be doing in 40 years, because this dude was like substantially older than me, then fuck this. You know what I mean? I want to do something else. Yeah. And so like that combined with like, you know, psychology piquing my interest, knowing I can get there, living in Jersey but going to school in Philly, I was able to go to Rutgers Camden. That's where I currently teach. I have this weird habit of teaching at the places that I went to school.
Well, that's what you do. You're comfortable there. You know the staff. You know. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, I get my claws in them, and they can't get rid of me. So wait a second. So that was towards music, which came first, psychology or music? So music came first, and then psychology formally came out of me taking an elective in music school.
The psychology now, you're more enjoying it. Would you spend more time doing that? Obviously, you don't be in bands anymore. The study of the minds.
Yes.
Do you see the enjoyment from the kids? Like, do you see, like, you're looking out and you're talking to the kids, can you see in the kids' minds, you know, the thinking of it and how they're thinking? Do you have like a pattern? I wouldn't say nicknames for your students or anything like that, because as you say, you're back now in class. You know, you're actually teaching.
It's so much better.
Yeah, definitely.
So think about what we were talking about earlier, right? The ability to kind of be mindful of group dynamics. Mm-hmm. As an educator, that's paramount. So what I do, like my specific teaching style, is because I'm video audio savvy, I pre-record my lectures as videos. And then I give you the PDF of the lecture slides that I'm lecturing over. And they're like podcasts. I do silly voices. Like when I'm talking about like William James, I use my old timey voice and put lots of reverb on it. I'm like, "Oh, back in the day," and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I'm like an asshole about it. Like, imagine me as your fucking teacher, right? So I make essentially 15 podcasts that you listen to one a week. And each of them covers a chapter. And you have the lecture slides as PDFs. And then in class, I give a 15-minute version of that hour-long, that's your reading, right? You don't need a textbook for my class. That is your reading, is watching this video. And I have them unlisted on YouTube so that you can listen to them at any speed that you want. The closed captioning is there for you. Like, it's just, I try to make it so butter for everybody.
Yeah.
And in class, I'll cover, because it's a 3-hour course, I'll cover 15 minutes of the lecture that they're supposed to have watched. And then we spend the rest of the time talking about 2 or 3 problems about that topic. We're just talking. We're just shooting the shit. One of my classes was about the experimental method, the scientific method. And so we invented a research design to demonstrate whether or not people who watch football drink beer. That was the original idea.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we were done with it, it was, do fans of the Philadelphia Eagles who like Coors Light in 12-ounce cans drink more Coors Light when they're watching a football game than when they're not watching a football game? I could literally write a protocol for that. I could do a study on that. So we spent like an hour of the class coming up with all these, and they were so engaged. Yeah. It was hilarious because it was like, all right, what's the beer going to be? It was like, well, it depends on the beer. Some people like different beer. You know, IPAs are stronger than this and that. I'm like, okay, let's standardize the beer. How's it going to be? Let's put it in a keg. Can't put it in a keg. Some people pour differently. Okay, we have to put it in a can. How big are the cans going to be? 12 or 16 ounces? 12 ounces? Okay, it was just like, it was hilarious. Everybody got involved.
You say
in
hilarious,
such weird
but
ways.
You say hilarious because it was so enjoyable and the feedback you were getting.
They
and stuff
didn't
like.
realize
They're educated.
that they were being little investigators.
Yeah.
They just thought it was this fun game of like, oh, well, what if and what if? I was like, these what if games are the exact ways of building a method around a hypothesis.
See,
well, what if? Well, what if? Let's
Yeah.
standardize that. Let's.
You know, you can read a textbook all goddamn day long, and what you'll do is just regurgitate what the textbook actually tells you. Having an engagement like that, and having it back and forth, it definitely, you know, it makes it jump out in their mind. It makes it enjoyable. It makes it. You don't know that you're learning. You know,
That's the whole thing.
Personal experience, I had a physics teacher that would, you know, once a month just take a shit day and wouldn't do anything, would fuck about, would mess around. You know, we'd be like, here, look at these things on the internet or whatever, and we would just take a relaxed day. He would also be one of them people like yourself who would have interactions, you know, someone in the classrooms being an asshole, talking over, and he'll sort of grab them ever so slightly and just move their arm a wee bit, you know, and it's like, this is physics, look, I've done taekwondo for 6 years. If I snapped it this way, you know, it's... Nice. And it's things like that that stick out in the student's mind. It gives them a drive. It gives them a want to actually continue down that field. Because if you went to a classroom where there's a 50-year-old teacher and he just says, there's a textbook, and he sits with his feet in his leather patches and his fucking shoulder and doesn't engage like that, they're not going to want to learn.
Hey, I'm a 50-year-old teacher.
You don't have leather patches on their fucking shoulders, do you? Or your elbows, do you, though?
So yeah, I mean, to your point, my the idea that I have about community building, I'm trying to be as honest to that value as possible, to the point where that's how I talk to my students. I tell my students not to call me professor. I tell them to call me Chris or Maute, or you know, if they want to call me professor because it's weird for them not to, that's fine. But because I went to music school, our professors could show up on a gig. And so, like, if you're at a gig at a club at, like, 11 o'clock at night and the sax player is your teacher and you say, hi, Professor Kerber, you have just ruined the gig, right? He's Ron.
Yeah.
You call him Ron. Whether he's at school, your teacher, or on a gig or on the street, he's Ron, right? That's my philosophy. I'm Chris. I'm Maute.
Once you get into that pattern, I would be someone very bad habited with that there, you know. I've known a few people who during my friendship with them have transitioned, and getting out of that habit of using them, you know, the different pronouns and the different names and stuff like that. I never do it intentionally. I'm just fucking shit at it because you've that pattern in your head. So you want to set it up as Maute, as Chris, or whatever like that. Yeah. Keeps a standardization like.
But it also sets a standard where I also say right off the bat, like, I'm not smarter than any of you, right? You're not here because I'm the smart person. Mm-hmm. You're here because I happen to have a certain expertise that you need to fulfill this accredited, you know, class in this program. So we're going to spend 15 weeks going over this thing that I happen to have expertise in. And by the end, you'll be a little bit more expert in it. And
only 15 weeks.
15, what did I say, months?
We said 15 weeks.
It is 15 weeks. Yeah, semester's 15 weeks.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't do American school. But that you just get that one semester. It's not a year-long class or anything like that. It's just...
Exactly. So the schools around here is it's usually a fall semester and a spring semester that are each 15 weeks. And then there are summer courses. I've taught those, but those are condensed. So those are 15 weeks of material in 3 weeks.
You should send me the PDF of your lectures and record your actual fucking classes. I have 15 weeks. I could give that and get off of psychology. That'd be nice.
You'd have to be matriculated, bro. You'd have to be matriculated. That's the only downside.
Out of all, like you said, you're in charge of a laboratory that would, come up with studies and things like that there. What is the most interesting, or maybe not interesting to the rest of us, but what is the one that struck your attention, one that you were really involved with? It could be a really boring one and you wanted to fucking figure out what bacteria think, but if it got your heart racing, I want to know.
So the most interesting from my perspective, so I've worked at it, so I'm not, it is public knowledge. I work at a place called the Monell Chemical Senses Center, and we are dedicated to studying the chemical senses.
Wildheart said that earlier. He was like, I remember Marty saying something about he smells a lot.
I do. Not that in both interpretations. I'm not necessarily sensitive, but I am a distinctive smeller. Like I can walk into a bar and tell when someone's puked because I know what butyric acid smells like. Mm-hmm. And when I walk past a rose bush, I know that phenylethyl alcohol is what's responsible for the fragrance, right? Mm-hmm. That being said, oh, and I also produce an amazing funk, like an onion sandwich man. That's left out in the sun. It's garlic and musk and freedom and olive oil.
You can never have enough garlic. It's I bought the girlfriend there, like we went shopping. I made sure she bought cloves and a wee crusher, and then you have to have your garlic paste to mix with your mayonnaise to make garlic butter. You have all these different garlic and onions. Very important.
Yes, I saute garlic and onions before I have Cap'n Crunch, man. I use that shit. Not even playing. So, where was I going with that?
Oh, the most interesting study. Sorry, I have a bad habit of that.
I have a pet theory that communication has a olfactory component that we're completely blind to. We have a blind spot, and that's why this transition to Zoom has fucked things up for people. The not being able to be within proximity of another person, I think, is fucking with us because something is missing that we never paid attention to and still don't, and we don't know why it's missing. I think that's a thing. So with that said, that's a pet theory. I can barely back it up. It's very speculative. That being said,
ignore that.
Okay, what was that all about?
Oh, no, I had to skip past my setup so I can see the chat. That's it. I'm just putting dots in to get past the setup. Ignore it.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that we have demonstrated is that body odor changes under different states of arousal. So if you've ever seen a commercial for deodorant that says, like, hey, stress sweat smells different than regular sweat, they're right. And part of that research is research that we've contributed to. That being said, we need to stress people out. And guess who has two thumbs and gets to do that? This fucking guy, right? So not only is it interesting, but it's fun because, I started doing this when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, this protocol of stressing people out. And I just turned 50. So I've been doing it for so long that, like, I'm kind of comfortable stressing people out and watching them squirm, which is a weird badge of honor. But we do this for the purpose of, so I'm happy to talk about this. I have a quick little bumper sticker about this. Yeah. So when you sweat, you usually sweat from two different glands. There's the eccrine glands and there's the apocrine glands. You usually sweat from both of them, but when you're thermoregulating, when you're hot and you need to cool down, you're mostly sweating from your eccrine glands and a little bit from your apocrine glands. Your apocrine glands are more... there's fewer of them, right? Eccrine glands are more ubiquitous across your body. Eccrine glands, I believe, are just in your erogenous zones, like your pits, your crotch, and I believe that there might be some secretions in your lacrimary glands as well, and maybe in your ear. Maybe earwax has to do with apocrine glands.
Quality content.
That being said, we think that apocrine glands secrete more when you're under psychological stress, specifically, like social stress. And so that is what's contributing to your body odor changing when you're aroused and stressed. Now, the problem is we've done experiments, and I've been a volunteer for this, where we've taken secretion from your apocrine gland and isolated it, and it doesn't have a smell. Let me quick tell you how they did this, and let me tell you how they went wrong. For about a week and a half, I had to not use deodorant and antiperspirant and just use a non-fragranced soap. By the end of those 10 days, and it was in the middle of the summer, I smelled like somebody took a shit in an onion garlic sandwich that they left in the sun, right? Like, no matter how frequently I washed, because I am just a filthy dago. So
I sweat like a motherfucker.
I shave my pits, right? And they want to stress me out. They want my apocrine glands to secrete, but, you know, they don't want to stress me out, and they don't want to risk not stressing me out. So they just take some adrenaline, epinephrine, and inject it into my fucking armpits.
Right?
Yeah. So, and then you see tiny little beads start popping out of apparently my apocrine gland. And this was done so long ago, and I'm not even playing with you. I'm not kidding. The dude harvested my apocrine gland secretions with a mouth pipette. Do you know what a fucking mouth pipette is? It is a Pasteur pipe, glass, very thin cylinder, right, attached to a tube attached to his mouth.
Yeah. The one that they suck on.
And he's sucking.
Yeah.
And I'm like this, with my shaved pits and this like 70-year-old man mouth pipetting apocrine gland secretion out of my
smells like shit.
Fucking pits.
And you smell like shit.
The worst. So here's the funny part. That particular time, that day that they were doing it, they got the mixture wrong on the epinephrine. Mm-hmm. And they gave me like 2 or 3 times the amount that I should. Now, in
Did
psychology,
you jump up and just punch somebody in the face?
listen to this. I get back up to the lab and I get like a raging headache. And I'm like antsy as shit, right? That being said, Brother John has a meme of me having my armpits sniffed. That's a whole other story. So wait a second, what was I doing with this? So I'm pacing back and forth. I'm whacked out of my mind on epinephrine, but I don't realize it. And here's the funny part. In psychology, there is a theory of emotions called, and it's the Schachter-Singer two-factor model, right? And the 2 factors are arousal state and valence. So one of them is a physiological thing, which is arousal, and one of them is a cognitive thing, which is valence.
By arousal, you just mean excitable. Something's on the go, not sexual arousal.
Yes, and so that's so funny. I'm so not used to arousal, meaning sexual arousal. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just clarifying. I don't know if you've seen my audience. There's commands for spanking and fisting. They get crazy in the chat. Like it's. Yeah.
Oh, this is fantastic. No, you can take arousal however you want, people. You filthy goddamn animals.
So you're aroused and someone's sniffing your pits. Go on ahead.
So, I talked to my boss, and she's like, "Hey, I just talked to George Preddy was the chemist at the time. He's no longer with us." And he's like, yeah, I think that you got a little too much epinephrine. And I was just like, is that what it is? Because I feel like my goddamn head's going to explode and I can't stop goddamn washing bottles. She's like, Chris, I think you should go home. I think you should go home and just lay down and come back tomorrow. I fucking walked so fast home. I was like running, sprint walking. I was sprint walking. So yeah, I had, so bringing it back to the Schachter-Singer thing, I had a very high excitable state, arousal state, and I had no valence. I didn't know what to attribute it to, right? It was neither good nor bad, and there was nothing in my environment. There were no cues in my environment to point to where I could be like, I should be happy about this. I should be upset about this. I should be angry about this. There was nothing. It was just neutral, unvalenced arousal. I want you to make a meme of that.
I'm desperately trying to put a command for the fucking bot in the chat that's not working. What was it? Doorknob head put it in for arousal, and it's supposed to pop up smells Chris Maute, but it's not working.
I love it. I love everything about it.
Any particular reason you get into the smell field, or did you just like walk past someday and went and walk in the door.
That was completely by accident. The short story is one of my professors called me at home 3 years after I graduated and asked me if I wanted a job, and it just happened to be his wife, who is now still my boss, but they've been divorced since. Which is weird. Like how did he know me, right? And like I am that asshole that like I'm the student who literally stopped by the office of the teachers who taught the courses that I thought were the interesting stuff. He taught psychology of consciousness. How the fuck am I not going to stop by his hang? So kudos to you, Bill Whitlow, if he ever gets a chance to listen to this. Bill Whitlow. He is the best part about that is he was not only my mentor, he is now my colleague. He's chair of the psych department that I happen to teach in at Rutgers Camden. So he called me because he said, I remember you. He literally looked my name up in the white pages back in the day when there were white pages and landlines. Right. And I knew it was him because I had one of those separate caller ID machines connected to my phone. And it pulled up his name, J. William Whitlow. And I was like, J. William Whitlow? Last time I saw that was like 3 years ago when I was an undergraduate. And he's like, yeah, what are you doing? I was like, I just happened to take a vacation. Like it's going to be a staycation because I was teaching at a therapeutic nursery that was so stressful. I had alopecia. I was literally losing like silver dollar sized pieces of hair in the back of my head.
Fuck.
It was so stressful. So I decided to take a vacation, and literally the day before the vacation, he called. Or literally like days before. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But it was like, in a couple of days, I'm going to be on vacation. I'm not going anywhere. He's like, why don't you go interview with Pamela Dalton? I'm like, okay. She offered me the job. I came back from staycation, put in my 2 weeks notice, and I've been there ever since.
Well, more focusing on the internet stuff and where you're based now. As I say, you're always about the panels. Have you met or brought upon any mad fuckers in your more recent days? Or do you avoid that altogether? Do you, I'm not going to say you'd go as crazy as this, but we had the reincarnation of Judas Iscariot here a couple of weeks ago. You're not going to go that crazy. But
that's kind of crazy.
Do you reach out or, you usually have your panel. I'm trying to find the words here. You have your general group of people. You grab the odd person the odd time. You grabbed me. But would you grab a crazy person that you think, there's an interesting conversation there? Do you avoid presuppositionists?
That's a good question. So, recently I started doing hangs again a while ago. And when I started that up again, I had G-Man on. And that went off the rails. Yeah. And I'm going to admit that was a mistake.
G-Man was my first.
But I mean, and G-Man and I are tight. Like as soon as the camera goes off, and he knows Shanna, and like he is nice as pie to us. Mm-hmm. But like that was just horrible. I thought for some reason he was going to behave more than he did. And so that was just me, I guess me thinking that I was entitled to something I wasn't, which was G-Man behaving. So,
do you find taking G-Man out of it, and we'll just say that style of personality, is there a name for that psychology that's not batshit crazy?
I don't even know what that would be. Yeah, I can't. I'm not a clinician. That is not within my scope. That is not within my scope.
Did any benefit come from it whatsoever, in your opinion, apart from your realization, let's not have him back on again?
So, I think the benefit was I'm guilty of naive optimism, right? And the problem is, no matter how often I'm reminded that I need to stop being so naive with my optimism, so long as there's enough time, I'm like, yeah, but they're okay. This will be fine. Right? It woke me up from that again. Yeah. So I consider that a good lesson. Also, Anthony Magnabosco. In the next
couple of weeks over here, I haven't had Jill on for a while, so we're going to invite back Jesus is Lord. Maybe put him up against
Jesus
Carlton.
is Lord, right?
Yeah, Jesus is Lord. Yeah, maybe trying to set him and Carlton up for a conversation. It's been a while, and then I know it'll be a bad idea and not do it again. We go through these cycles.
Yeah. I consider them cycles. Just
Faith
like the
in
topics
humanity,
of conversation.
Faith
Like
in
when
humanity.
the noobs come in and they think that they're the first ones to like figure out like the problem of induction, or like, kill me.
You've totally ruined my trail of thought now. You've ruined the interview. That's it. It's all over. Thanks everybody for coming. It's gone now. I lost my trail of thought.
All good. That's what I dig. So wait a second. So the G-Man, did I learn anything from it? Yeah. So another thing that I learned was so at around the time that I did that, I was contacting Anthony Magnabosco, who's popular for the Street Epistemology Jam. So he and I were talking. He did a show on, I think he did my show. He did, yeah, that's right. He did ATHEIST, and then he talked to my buddy Nick Suter, and we were in correspondence. And I was on his server, and he was like, "Does anybody have a video that you want to break down street epistemology wise?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll volunteer the one I did with G-Man. It was a fucking horror show. I'll happily take some constructive criticism." And even though it didn't get chosen for like one of their YouTube jams, somebody actually went point by point and time-stamped what went on as it went on, and at the same time was like giving constructive criticism. So that was cool. It was cool to see how, like, oh, G-Man says this, Chris tries this, G-Man says this, Chris tries this again, and then, like, with notes of, like, oh, maybe
I can't
this,
remember
that, or the
who it was that was on your panel. It was your lady. I can't remember her name. I wouldn't say she was aggressive, but she was very, I don't know, I'm going to say aggressive. But in the way that they would talk, very strong personality would probably be a better way. And I was at the time, because you threatened me with fucking Anthony Moscow, because me and her were talking about problems with street epistemology. And when I described what we do, what I was doing, which is in correlation with what you were doing, she had a different name for it. I can't fucking remember the name of it for the life of me. But it was slightly different to the street epistemology. What I don't sort of like about the street epistemology is its very leading questions. To make an analogy, kids, when they're parents, it's you go to the child and you ask the child a question. It's like, do you like this more or this more? You want to ask the question, what's your favorite? You don't want to have a leading question.
I think it's deeper than that. I think that you're talking at the level of process, like the method that they use to do what they're doing is what you just described. My argument is with the content. I think they overvalue truth, because when we're
talking problems with it, or this is a problem you have with street epistemology.
This is a problem I have with it. Yeah,
good.
I think they overvalue.
I'll not
truth.
be the only person getting shouted at. I like it.
Yeah, because I mean, when they're doing those, well, you want the truth, right?
Yeah.
Like that's always what the crux of all of their questions is. Well, blah blah blah, this or the truth. When you would prefer the truth, right? You'd rather be in touch with
leading. Yeah.
That, and to me, that is like, that's weaponizing philosophy. That's not what the good life is. The good life is not pursuing truth. Pursuing truth has its place in the pie chart of life. Philosophy and pursuit of rational, logical, reasonable truths only takes up a small sliver of it, because the rest of life doesn't need a fucking syllogism, right? Philosophy is not going to make music better sounding, right? To me, it's not going to make emotions better. It's not going to make sex better. It's not going to make love feel better. It's not going to make pain feel, less worse, right?
Feel like
some things just don't need to be fucking rational and reasonable.
And I don't feel that it's even a genuine truth. It's like I'm rapid firing questions at you, and I know they're not rapid firing, but you're in that succession of, question, answer, question, answer. You're not really getting a chance to actually sit down and contemplate what's actually being said to you. You're working off
open-ended questions. Yes.
Yeah, you're
Good
working
faith.
off. You're working straight away with this. What comes naturally straight away to me, and as anyone who's ever been in a long-term relationship, you're around, you're going to say shit and emotions that you don't mean at the time. You're quick firing and stuff like that. You don't think. I think it's an ungenuine truth that you're actually getting from the person, but the person will agree that it is the truth because it came out of their mouth like that. It's boom, that's must have been, but it's not it's not thought about. It doesn't have context. It doesn't have quality to it. It's a fake, hollow answer, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's like instead of having a genuine interest in understanding by asking open-ended questions and listening, it's always trying to calibrate them to the truth.
Gotcha moments.
And I don't need to be fucking calibrated, son. Like, I don't have it all figured out, but I have that much figured out. Like philosophy doesn't need to be weaponized. It's not everything. Nothing is everything. Once it's everything, it's nothing, right? A theory of everything is a theory of nothing. Fuck you.
I find philosophy, it depends on the actual panel that you're talking to, the people that you're talking to. It has its moments in general day to day because it helps me describe how I'm feeling. But after using that to explain to someone and then try to explain to them, I then don't see the point of it. Bad choice of words. I fucking hate labels. Don't put me in a label. Ask me a question, you'll get an answer.
There we go.
Because
and that's something that you and I agreed on. I think the first time that we chatted.
Yeah, I say
like
this
the whole
all the
label
time,
thing. Like, hey man, I don't care what you call me, so long as you're listening. So long as we're talking about the ideas that I express. Right? You're not talking to like if you consider me in the atheist category. I'm not like every other atheist that you can just pull those arguments out of. Because like I said before, I'm atheish. Like you're gonna have a hell of a time getting me to say a kind word about Richard Dawkins. So if you're going to use him as the high priest of atheism, you're fucked.
Sorry, I just see one in the chat from V57. Premise 1, if atheism is true, everything is permitted. Premise 2, humanity consistently aims to build societies where everything is not permitted. Premise 3, atheism is not true. Fan of yours, Chris?
I have no idea who that is.
No, I'd never turned up here before. What? Do you have any issues with what they've...
Oh, that's just fucking crossword puzzles. I couldn't... That's navel-gazing crossword puzzles that have no real-world application. And this is where I'm a dick. This is where, like, as far as these propositional logic bullshit syllogisms go about things that we don't know anything about or human behavior or thought, the top floor of philosophy in this particular area is the basement of psychology. We'll take it from here. Sit the fuck down. Hold my beer. We're going to use actual empirical evidence to put to test these armchair navel-gazing crossword puzzle syllogisms that you're able to fucking whip up with your dick in one hand and a pencil in the other. Fuck off.
Something quite similar. Well, along the same lines of my own opinion like this, I don't know. Titan, help me out here. Nathaniel, what's it called? Begins with a D. You know who I'm talking about. Loads of people. Hangs around with Pine Creek, right? And they have Nathaniel on, the guy runs the channel. I can't remember what the channel's called now. Just in this moment, I'm having a brain fart. And they had Pine Creek on. They had Danny on. No, it wasn't his channel. It was JB's channel. JB somebody, and all these people were on, right? All these sort of big names, as I say, Pine Creek and all these big, and they're having this premise fucking conversation and all the rest of it. And before the stream went live, JB had posted, I'm going to go live, is anyone interested? And I said, sure. So I ended up with a link, and I joined after a while, remained quiet, and it was quite late at night, and I had a few bottles, or a few glasses, and after a while, it was just like, what is the point in this? Like, I told Pine Creek he sounded like a meme. It was, you're just repeating stuff over and over and over again and getting noticed. Like, you have a problem with philosophy. I was like, I don't have a problem with philosophy, but you're talking about hypothetical situations and what you would do this, that, and the other, and half of you aren't genuine. It's just... It's
bullshit.
Bullshit is the exact phrase I was looking for.
No, and also, I mean... So let's take a step back and say...
Thank you. It wasn't Nathan's channel, Titan. It was actually JB's, but thank you.
So let's take a step back and, recognize that there's value in sharpening your sword, sharpening your skill set rhetorically. There is absolutely value in that, but time and place, like there's a time and place for that, and not every environment is the time and place for that. So... I have a problem with you, like,
don't get me wrong,
your
there was
skills.
a lot of people watching. There's maybe, 30, 40 people, at least double what was watching now. And it does, as you say, have a point of sharpening a sword and things like that. But I don't see, I just see it's the same content over and over again, going back to the conversations, going back to the stories, going back to the, actually finding out something that's happened in your life that you can show me makes you believe or think this certain way or this certain thing. Give me a fucking personal testimony. People in the community, I think, have a problem with personal testimony. The reason being, one Christian has a personal testimony and they see God. Another Christian has.
Let's use that as the post-show like topic, because I think there's a break in this discussion, in this great debate discussion. There is a break between the philosophical side of objectively showing evidence for the existence or non-existence of God versus the psychological proposition of belief in the existence or non-existence of a God. And to me, the philosophical part that's why I call it this jerking off, navel-gazing crossword puzzle bullshit. Doesn't mean anything. The psychology, the psychology of belief formation and belief change and persuasion, and that's where the heat is.
The only sort of philosophical situation I always use, and the reason I use it is for the story, to make a fucking point, is, you're on a stage, you're doing a show, and I just walk up, punch you in the face, and throw you off the stage. You think I'm a fucking asshole. You think I've got anger issues. You think I've got this, that, and the other. Unbeknownst to you, fucking Europa bumhole has fucking kidnapped my daughter, and if I don't go and do this, I don't get her back. Different situations have different things. Talking about, what if this happens? I'll throw another premise in. Changes the whole thing. What's the fucking point? Give me a story that actually happened, that drew something out of you, that gave you a reaction, that made you feel this way. Not what you think you're going to do. Because the whole atheist community that are humanists, there's no humanism in the atheist community. We're all just talking about God. I'm not going to rant on that, but you get the point. You're smiling. You get what I'm trying to say. I love your rants. You get what I'm saying.
Oh, I do.
And I think it's something that we agree on.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is
absolutely. Because if you can tell a personal story about how this touches you, that is way more interesting.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, that the people in this side of the community, the problem that skeptics would have, we'll say we're all happy to consider ourselves skeptics and logically thinking people. The problem that I would find that they have is they cut off the personal testimony. Personal testimony means nothing because we have evidence and we have universalism. We have all these labels that we're going to throw on things.
Time and place.
And the problem that they have with that is, as I said, Christian, two completely separate personal testimonies, but they both agree in God. So that gives them strength with their personal testimonies. So our side throws them out because it gives them strength. It gives us strength as well. It gives us understanding, more to the point. It gives us a connection with the other person, which you're not going to get from going, premise P and Q and what the fuck, who cares?
Yeah, and it's different goals. I think that it's just different goals. I've been made fun of for this, I like to build bridges. People bust my goddamn balls about that. And, I'm trying to build a community. I'm trying to maintain quality of life and connectedness and compassion and shit like that. I'm also a human being, and I enjoy dark humor and, dick jokes. And, I'm a fuck up from way back. But these are my goals right now. And, when you talk to me, hopefully it's evident that I'm genuine in pursuing these goals of connection. So if you want to argue with me, we're going to have a crosstalk, right? When I interviewed Kent Hovind, he didn't know what to do with me because he kept baiting me to argue with him so we can get into his script. And so in the face of somebody who was just yeah, those are arguments that would be made if we were debating. And then just not taking the bait. Just be yeah, but anyway, so what makes you think that? Stuff like that.
I always try, if people come and, want to my channel, as I said earlier, G-Man and Carlton will maybe set up a conversation there. What I usually aim for is what I call a formal discussion. I would give them 10 minutes at maximum, 5 minutes is the usual, to what is your goal here in this conversation, and what are you trying to put across? Short format, give me a couple of minutes, and then I open it up to an hour's long conversation. Half of it, every maybe 10, 15 minutes, I'll swap round with who runs the conversation, if you understand what I mean, who's leading the conversation. But it's a conversation. It's not here's my premise, here's my point. You have to then retort with what I'm coming across. And I find with a conversation, you'll slip off script. Even if you've got debating down to a T, this is a different format. You're going to slip off script. You're going to say things that are more genuine than what you're trying to put across. And people see that
conversation, man.
Yeah.
You know the recipe, brother. You know the recipe. That's it right there.
I feel people are afraid as well to tell the truth. Right, especially what I find on the internet is you have to be not an extreme version of yourself, but there is no coming back. You know, you can go down the stairs with the wife or whatever and tell her you're going to put stuff in the dishwasher and still put it in the fucking sink, and she's still going to love you and she's still going to nag you and you're still going to get on. You'll still put it in the fucking sink. You can't do that on the internet. If you say something, you have to stick to it. You'll get called out on it. You know, people are afraid to tell the truth.
I disagree with that. I have a thesis that vulnerability is strength online. And I think that the reason for that is the entry point of this is the internet, the people who choose to be content creators online, whether it is YouTube or in the chats or whatever, or Twitter or whatever, this is a self-selected group of people who want to be heard, myself included, right? So we have to start there. We are already a self-selected group of people.
What I've just typed in the private chat is a panel, a chat, a conversation that I've wanted to have for maybe at least 9 months, and everybody, like, I keep getting, no, don't get bad, and it's, I think I'm in agreement with you, is what you're saying. Like, vulnerability causes strength.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. Does trauma cause strength? I think so. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, trauma. I mean, we're all going through shit. When you're interacting with somebody and they might do something that you don't like, think for a second, like, what could they be going through? Right? So, like, I dipped out of the scene recently because, I mean, my therapist died of a heart attack. I had been seeing this guy for 20 years. So he was more like my life coach. You know, like we would, you know, when we transitioned to remote sessions, we'd like do walk-in talks, and he'd go walk in Philadelphia is where he's at, and I'd be walking around here, and like, you know, I definitely think being able to talk about that as a guy, you know, in the social norms that exist, I think that is I think that is a strength, being able to talk about it. And I also think that it is more welcome than maybe people would think.
Yeah, I really push with my daughter. I know that she's only 4, but I very much push with her openness. There is this conversation, the asking of it, to know it's... Recently listened to a thing on BBC Radio 4 about what, as you say, man, what boys go through, that, you know, masculinity, that toxic masculinity, and what way to approach it. Do we get rid of it altogether, or do we incorporate other things into masculinity, you know, to dilute the toxicity down, so to speak? You know, there's still, like, my mum would say something sometimes, like, oh, wee girl can't do that, and I'd be like, man, I'm going to slap you. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. If she wants to go do that, she can fucking do that, like, you know. And my mum being the age that she is, I can see that she's trying. There's that oldness there, sort of old ideas. But, you know, it's... I don't know. I'm rambling again. Now the weed's starting to kick in.
All good, man. All good.
But, yeah, it's about creating these... I don't know. Molding minds. Teaching people. Teaching is something very, very... that would be close to my heart, so to speak. You know, go on ahead. No, go on ahead.
I'm gonna push back just a little bit. Teaching. I mean, I'm hired.
I'm high, and you put your hand on your heart, and then you vanish.
So I want to teach when I'm hired as. Ooh. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You went, I'm high, and then you cut out.
That was on purpose. You know, when I'm high as an educator, I want to educate and not teach. But when I'm not that specific thing at that specific time, when I'm with friends, when I'm with my kids, I think it's the connection and the modeling of behavior. And I'm not into persuasion. So here's a quick little thing. You know, being raised Italian American, Italian on my mother's side, and I'm the youngest, so I'm the mama's boy. I am so sensitive to manipulation because my mom is the kind of person who says shit like this. This is a quote. You know, your Aunt Susan's in New Jersey. It'd be really nice if you can, you know, visit her because she is your godmother. But, you know, I know you're busy, and I'm sure you make the right choice.
Yeah. No, I had a mother like that. My mum would, like, you know, we would be bad and she'd shout at you. You know, or you do something and she'd shout at you. And I remember one particular time, like, my mother even took us to the fucking orphanage one time in the car. I was like, get out. I can't want to deal with you anymore. That's it. Get the fuck out. That I could deal with. The one time that she came to me and she just, you know, sat down, asked me to sit down, and she goes, look, I know what's happened, and I just want to let you know, I'm really disappointed in you. And she just got up and walked away and doesn't talk to you for like 3 days. And it's like, Matt, can you just punch me? Can you just, like, can we get past this?
Yeah. Let me suffer the short-term pain, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that you've disappointed them is, you know, that manipulation. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to learn to not say things like that as a new step parent. Right, so like, of course, I've never raised kids, and you know, I marry Shannon. It's like instant family, just add love, and you know, now I have, like, at the time it was like a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a teenager, right? Mm. And so I was kind of, you know, like, I know about, you know, I teach developmental psychology. I know some things about childhood development. You know, I've you know, worked at a therapeutic nursery, but, like, you know, parenting is completely different. And I remember one of the first times that, you know, something went wrong, and I was like, to one of my kids, I was like, you know, I used that. I was like, man, that's jive that you did that. I'm real disappointed. Seeing them in real time get crushed by the weight of that was just like, I'm never saying that ever again. There's like, it was just like mental note. Like I can only imagine what my face looked like as I was watching their face do their thing. After I said it, I was just like, oh, yeah, it's devastating, man. It's manipulating in a way that, like, I didn't intend at that time, but, like,
it's a parenting thing, though. You know, we find ourselves slipping into that. You're trying to do what's best for them. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to use the phrase, the ends justify the means, but when you're a parent and they're a kid, sometimes you slip up, you know, and it's the way you put things across is a natural emotional response rather than, you know, the most logical thing to say.
Yeah.
My wee girl, I have to say, is, you know, I am shocked. And every daddy says she's the best and all that, but she's fucking 4 and she's talking to me and she's like, Daddy, my mind thinks like this. And it's like, right, that's just, you know, tell me more. I want to hear more about this. You know, it's, nice. She tells me what she's thinking about before she goes to sleep at night. You know, she's having conversations with me about death and really good with it. Like, shockingly fucking, now her granda has recently passed away, maybe this last 3 months or so. And she knew it was coming. He was been down for years, you know, went to the hospital. In the car on the way home, I said to her, you know, Granda's in hospital and sometimes people don't come home from the hospital. And she was like, no. And I was like, no, sometimes people don't come home from the hospital. And she was like, no. Granda's not coming home from the hospital. Granda's going to die.
Whoa.
You know, it's the acceptance of that. And she's just blunt like me, you know, just fucking says it as it is. And her maturity is, it fucking shocks me. It really does. Even when things go wrong, she'll maybe be upset and she comes across and goes, Daddy, don't worry about it. We'll sort this. We'll do this next time. It'll be grand next time. It's watching the psychology, the development, the way her brain is going. I don't, like you say, you have the kids, the instant family now, and I'm just talking because you're completely frozen. But have you went through the baby stage? You've now kids of your own, or you just stayed with the group? I've totally lost him. The reason I'm bringing this up is one thing I remember is at the stage when the child's just born and her eyes are doing this, you know, they're not matching because she's only like a few fucking days old. And the first time that happened, I remember running into the kitchen going, there's something wrong. We need to go to the fucking doctor. Our eyes are like this. They're doing this. It's like, no, her brain needs to develop, you know. And I remember when she had her first word and, you know, getting from that and seeing the development in her and seeing her play with the toys. I remember saying to her mother at the time, I can't wait till that wee bitch can talk. Like, I just want to know what's going on inside her fucking head. And
Mhm.
Her favorite phrase is, "Daddy, I want to show you. I want to tell you something. Daddy, I want to tell you something." That's the way she starts a conversation all the time, and
That's great.
with the music as well, man. I don't know. I know you're not on Twitter, and this last 2 weeks I haven't seen the daughter because I had a stag do, and then end of the month her mum gets her anyway. But Sundays on the way home, I pick a CD, we put it in, everything from Frank Zappa to fucking Megadeth, Rage Against the Machine, The Doors. Today, she was absolutely loving The Doors, Break On Through to the Other Side, and the whole thing. It was just, we do like a music lesson, and I would record it because I have the camera mic, set up in the car, so I would record it sometimes, and it's watching her move her hand like this, and then realizing the music is there, and catching the beat and stuff, and just watching the development of a child come from, my eyes don't match, to her telling me her favorite songs, AC/DC, fucking what do you call
being
it?
able to synchronize with the beat,
and music, and yeah. Sorry, I'm now rambling. But
I love it.
Having kids, I don't know. Go with kids,
Go kids, go kids. They're our future.
Kids are our future, man.
I believe that children are our future.
So, how long have we been going now? We've been going, right, questions for Christopher. I know there's a few people that have been dying to chat, and I know that there's a few new people have come to the channel as well. V57, Badger, Uries 106, I've seen you about. Thank you, Wildheart, for sending them here. Athena's going to be down the after show. I think, are we running late? 10:30. Yeah, we're wild late. We're way past the after show.
You can't shut us up.
No,
when
we
you,
were
when
supposed
we
to
get
shut
going,
up about
man.
27 minutes ago. So yeah, there is an after show. I have sent the link out to a few people already. Are we really 27 minutes fucking late? If I could show you, man, my screen timer hasn't updated, and it says started streaming 17 minutes ago, and it's been like that since 17 minutes and just stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, Christopher. Questions for Christopher. And Christopher, have you any questions that you would like to ask me? Anything that you would like to say after that? I will give the floor to you.
I don't necessarily have any questions for you, MathPig. I do want to thank you for the opportunity of, being able to shoot the shit with you one-to-one. I think that's super fun, and it definitely gets these alliances kind of going, where your audience can kind of see you talk to other people, and hopefully you're bringing people onto your hang like myself that are into the same things that you are, and they're seeing that, and I'm thankful to be introduced to your audience, and I think that it's important to just maintain these to maintain the connections, especially now. Like, what kills me is how divisive the internet still is, that it's still the fucking splinternet. And in the face of COVID, at a time when it's just so readily apparent to reasonable people that we're in this together. And my mind is blown that there is division over things that just seem like common sense practices that just help everybody get through the bullshit faster. That's fascinating to me. So without dwelling on the bullshit side and dwelling on the good side, I think connection is good. Let's keep doing things like this.
Don't be timing anyone out. It's perfect that you're saying that, because V57 is a troll. You haven't done, what is it? There's an actual troll alert command where you can tag V57 and all, and it comes up and it's wonderful and everything. And I still won't tag the fucker out, but it's just nice to know that they're there. Apologies for the fucker. I'm Irish, we swear. But no timing anyone out. There's no point. We're moving on anyway. If you were going to time them out, you would have timed them out already, but you know better. So that's, welcome everybody. Come and talk more. I'd appreciate if you do have something in the live chat that would be in disagreement with what most of us say. Grab yourself between the legs and join the stream. That's what I appreciate. Talking in text gets nobody anywhere except aggravate the chat. Join the hangout. Come and say what you have to say, and it's a better conversation. The whole point of everything me and Christopher just talked about for fucking way too long.
Yeah. See how bad it ain't.
We're not that bad. We're not all dirty atheists. So, copying, posting, this is the after party. There you go. After party's posted. So, everybody move over to there. And we'll be opening it up. Yeah, people who need to get the links will get the links. There may be some spots left over. We will rotate if it goes on. And yeah, V57, definitely. If you're on Twitter or if you're on Discord, all my links are on my About channel. All the links are actually below in the description as well. My email's there as well. Reach out, man. Send me a message. There's fucking 5 screens here. I'm not going to miss you. Just reach out. We'll get you on the panel. And other than that, Christopher, do you have a tagline? Do you have something that you like to promote? It's like everybody feel good and all, or, you know.
No, I wished I had a tagline. I'm gonna invent it.
For God's sakes.
What's my tagline?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Just throw in all your Mouteisms into one sentence and that's your tagline.
Throw all my Mouteisms into one sentence, and that's my tagline. All right, so I want to take a quick pivot for a hot second, and
shout out to the Hi Mouty's wife. I don't know her name, so I appreciate.
Mouty's wife, you're being.
I don't want to. That made me sound disrespectful now. Just tell me your fucking name so I can say hello instead.
It's Shanna.
Hello,
and
Shannon.
In the chat asked if you're still a deist. So if you want to come into the post show and explain your awesome position on deism, there's also some precepts that are might be ballsy enough to step in. Yeah, can you believe that they still exist?
Diana, I did not see you in the chat. Hi, Diana. Christopher still with the NGC Studios. We talked about that at the start.
I haven't been with the New Covenant Group in a long time. So my tagline is, not knowing how to cook is like not knowing how to fuck. Let's everybody get nourished at the dinner table. Get out of the octagon. Stop getting the fuck-it-alls. And get some prescription strength good and all. That's not a tagline?
No, for God's sake.
The fucking
And also
paragraph.
volume 2 of my tagline. That fits on a bumper sticker, right?
So stupid.
Fuck
Big
you.
ass bumper sticker. Cars in America are huge, man. You can have big ass bumper stickers.
That's my tagline. Everything I just said is my tagline.
On that, as I say, links there. Everybody jump across. We'll be moving over to the after party now. And yeah, as I always say at the end, thank you to everybody for watching. It would just, I'd
Yes, thank
probably
you.
still talk to Christopher. I don't give a fuck right now. He's brilliant. But thank yous all for coming and watching. I really do appreciate you, members and Patreons, and everybody that contributes to the channel. Thank you, UK government, because I will be getting £100 sterling because everybody over the age of 18 gets that because of the pandemic and to try and get the economy boosted. And I'll be taking this month's Patreon and buying a lovely brand new screen for the setup. So it'll be absolutely lovely, all going well in the next couple of days. But thank you everybody that does contribute financially and viewership. And yeah, always remember, everybody, think for yourselves. Don't let anyone tell you what to think. And on that note, we'll see you at the after party.